and welcome to a brand new episode of The Latest Thread. Today, we want to have a chat all about our quilting mojo. Sometimes we lose it, sometimes we get it back. How did that happen? How do we keep it? Sometimes we just get in a rut and we're not really sure why we don't feel the desire to go and sew or to stitch anything. And then it just magically comes back. But I know for me, I have some ways that I can do that. So we're going to chat about that today with all of us. I'm going to pick Jody to go first.
What?
Surprise!
Wait, we're going in order. Can't we just chat?
I don't know. I mean,
I can back up and do that if you want.
It's good. I tend to lose mine pretty frequently, actually. I think it's just, it gets like, you're doing the same thing all the time. And I would say I truly don't lose it. It's just that I lose it for the quilting because I just moved to something else. And boy, there's tons of mojo there, but it's not really a great thing because what I'm doing is I'm procrastinating. It's, if that even makes sense, I just move it somewhere else and it's not what I need to be doing. So it's not a great thing. And then usually for me, what calls me back, not that I got the mojo back for it necessarily, but there are deadlines and you have to do what you have to do. And, I operate really good on a tight deadline. So that's but as far as quilting, if I go to a quilt show, I come home super pumped to get doing something. Do I do it? Not always, but it really, to me, that's super inspiring because you go there and you see all the things and I don't know. I think that makes me want to come home and quilt when I go to a quilt show.
Inspiration from what other people are doing, right?
Mm-hmm. And what I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes it's how you can combine something that someone else is doing with what you're already doing.
Yeah.
Maybe you're stuck on something and you're just like, it just opens up a whole different way of looking at something and going, you know what, I can apply that to this, and it gets you unstuck.
Well, and I think you see things at a quilt show that I think in general, we like what we like, right? I mean, you belong to groups that are for what you do. So you're always exposed to what you do,
Mm-hmm.
your style, I guess. So going there, you're seeing everything. And it just kind of, makes you think about something different, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's, not to interrupt, but there's different kinds of quilting mojo. Like the quilty mojo, which can be solved with just changing the music, and then the creating mojo. So when I'm stuck on a quilt, I'm not kidding you, sometimes it feels like I've been working on a quilt 3 weeks and I just can't get through it because either I actually want to be doing something else and I'm overdoing the quilt, but a lot of times I just change the radio station on Pandora or whatever, just a totally different style because it changes the flow of my quilting. If I'm at a dead halt creative wise, it's either a walk in nature, which that totally stimulates my creativity, or mindless piecing. Sometimes that sparks something because it's just straight sewing, but in the back of your mind, you start thinking other things that you could be doing, or, I should use something here and stop chain piecing and actually go piece a block or something. So there's different kinds of quilty mojo. Mm-hmm. Just my 2 cents.
Well, and I think too, if we quilt for others, that's a different, mojo. If you're constantly, focusing on what goes on someone else's quilt, after a while, it's nice to have a break, and be able to do something of your own, even if it's just something very small, that you can finish in a short amount of time, that kind of makes you then want to go back more easily. And I'm with Karen too. She changes the music. I listen to pre-recorded books. So if it's a really good book, I can get through something, less painful, But a lot of times it seems too that we're just pulled in so many directions, and then it's really hard to stay focused and devote all your mojo onto one thing. And you get to that point where it becomes so overwhelming that I have to step away. If I feel stuck, I'll do something silly like go out and cut all the grass, because that gives me, the fuel to recharge again. Then it's okay.
It's like
Or
clear your mind.
Go to my grandkids' baseball games, which I love to do, because then you're outside, you can block everything out. And then the next day, it's okay. So I guess we have to have diversions, when we're stuck, because especially for us that work on our own schedule, we have to motivate ourselves in order to not totally get behind. So it can become frustrating, at times that you totally lose it, and it's hard to get it back.
Yeah, especially when it is something you do every day, all day, right? Quilting is your everyday thing, where at one point, for most of us, I think it was probably just a hobby, right? It was a passion. It was a side thing. It was just what made us happy, or creative time. And when that becomes your full-time gig, then sometimes it feels like you have to do it, so it's not as enjoyable. And I just feel like something you're passionate about, you have to be really in the mood to do. It's like, maybe I've picked up a hobby, like I diamond paint on the side, for example. And my husband will say to me, well, you haven't touched this in months. It's like, well, right now I'm on fire for my quilting, right? Like I'm totally in that zone, and everything is just clicking for me, and I just don't have the pull in that direction. So I feel like that's something that I like to go to when I'm feeling, okay, now I'm getting my fill. Now I need a little bit of a break, and I can go and do something else. But for me, it seems like I have to choose something else that's still creative. I still have to choose, like I'm still making something. Maybe it's not something that I have to really develop a difficult skill, so I don't have to work at it for long periods of time to get good at. So I can have some kind of instant gratification and then go back to my day job kind of thing, right? Yeah. I took a class recently for something that I never thought I would ever do, but I took a class on how to make a portrait quilt. I couldn't quilt for a week. So I was, not that I couldn't, didn't want to, but I just physically couldn't for a week. And so I took a class during that time, and it was like, wow, really opened up my mind to other things and thinking about how can I combine that with some of the things that I'm already doing. How could I do that technique on the long arm? That kind of stuff just gets you brewing, and then it kind of ignites that passion again.
Yeah.
So
that's like quilty recess. And I do that all the time. Like when it's a structured client quilt and I have, ruler work and tiny background fills and this and that, throwing that plain piece of fabric up when it's done and just playing, it like clicks you out of that structure and back into your create.
Do you guys all have the zippered leaders? Do you ever, like the last quilt I had up, and including this one up, like they're a month long up on the frame kind of thing. Do you ever just take them off and put something else up?
I don't, because I know myself well enough to know that if I take it off, it may never get back on there for a very long time. So I force myself to finish it. And then that's like the reward.
Yeah.
Because when I get it done, then I can do such and so, whatever happens.
I switch them back and forth between the two machines. So
yeah. Yeah, I'll do that sometimes too. It's just, on the weekend, I'll go and steal the other one while it's not being used kind of thing. But the zipper leaders are awesome for that, because you can switch gears and then.
As long as your frames are the same size, right?
Well, exactly.
Yes. Good point. Yeah. So what kind of other creative things do you guys do, like on the side, for a hobby? Because quilting is your job now, right? So what
I
else
take-
do you do for fun that's creative?
Pictures, photos.
I
But
see some of your
that goes hand in
pictures
hand with that nature walk. Like I'll grab, we call it the big camera, the real camera, not my
Real
phone,
camera.
the big camera. And I'll be like, let's go for a ride. And we just get in the truck, go for a ride. And wherever we land, it's like photo day. So we might go to the inlet, or we might go on a hike trail. But whatever I'm doing, I'm totally just in tune with nature and photographing it, and just being more inspired, whether it's by texture or colors or something in the photo.
And do you take your pictures with your phone? I mean, I know the phones are pretty good
I
nowadays.
do take pictures with my phone, but they're more like just spur of the moment photos. If I have the big camera out, we're actually going for photos.
Yeah. Yeah. You might just want to have that with you just in case something, oh, where's my camera?
Well, it's big and heavy and it's hot here. So
Oh, yeah. It's hot everywhere right now.
yeah, but when you guys have a nice cool fall, I'm still hot. So
I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what tweaks it for me. Just getting out there and looking at nature.
Mm-hmm.
But you have nice things to look at where you live.
Everything is green. Like when you show me pictures of like a chopped wood in a pile, I'm like, oh, because I don't have any. I have palm trees and pine trees. That's it.
Yeah, and we're like, ugh, wood, trees. Okay, enough with that. I don't want to take a picture of a tree. It's surrounded by them all the time.
We have lots of flowers and weird plants and weird animals.
Well, but to me, that's why I enjoy partly, going to the ball games, because, you've worked all day. It's now evening time. It's a beautiful evening, and you just feel, it's recharging. The breeze is going, the sounds, to me, that's, I look forward to it for those reasons. I also like to knit and read. I like to read. But for me, as Sharon mentioned earlier in regards to the piecing, I know Jody's probably going to chuckle, as she often does. When I piece, I'm a super slow piecer because I pin everything. Everything has to be in its place. I'm not very fast at it because I choose to do it that way, because to me, it's relaxing to do it that way. This is like my getting away. So I don't care how long it takes. Other people can make 3 quilt tops in the time it takes me to do 1. That's totally okay with me because that's my zone. So I guess, because it's not supposed to be for something specific, urgent, there's no deadline. And I think, to me, that's really relaxing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I've never crocheted or not crocheted. I know that's not
crocheted. That would be the aftermath of crochet.
Crocheted. I'm totally crocheted out. Or knit. I've never done anything like that. Do you make like socks or sweaters?
I do socks.
Okay.
Period. Mostly.
Okay, so I can order for a nice woolly pair for the winter.
No, you cannot.
Oh, okay.
But you tried that other thing, Sharon, the scrolly, the owl.
Paper quilling.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I did try. It's good to try different crafts.
Yeah.
As long as you're not spending thousands of dollars and then dropping it after 30 days. But I don't know, I spent $100 on paper, little tiny paper, and a book with some tools and designs, and that was kind of fun. But again, it feels like one of those things that you have to be like, I'm just in the mood to do that kind of thing, So it's like my husband plays the guitar, and I'm like, I missed hearing you play the guitar, and he's like, I just have to be in the mood for it. So then when he says to me, how come you haven't been diamond painting? See, it's just the same as that, right? You have to have that pull and that creative draw to it as well. So Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's important to keep that fire going. And I think as far as taking a class goes with our Gamma education, there are some classes that you may not even think that it may be something up your alley. And I still think it's worthwhile doing because, like I said, I took that one class, totally wasn't something that I thought I wanted to do. Just for fun, I did it, and it kind of inspired me. So you never know, and you might learn something different from a different teacher, even if the subject is the same. You could take the same subject, but from a totally different teacher, and that might help reignite some interest or passion in something that you thought you didn't have. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's important, even though we've been long arming for a number of years, all of us, that you have to have something to advance your techniques or, and if you can do that by taking a class, especially when we go from one long arm system to another, maybe now we're computerized. So there's always that learning curve. And to me, that's important because there's nothing worse than if you feel like you're in a rut, with what you're doing. You have to challenge yourself, I think, with different things. And so no matter what that takes, to get you there, whatever method, but you have to keep going because if not, then it becomes a job, quilting becomes a job.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be that, even though sometimes it is.
I think quilting though, so it seems different than some other thing that you might do at home because it's a big thing, right? I mean, we long arm, but we also piece, and there's so many different aspects of it that I think it's very consuming, right? So it kind of takes it can consume your life. Do you know what I mean? It's like and you do it at home, so you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
There's really, you go in this room, oh, that's where I sew there. Out here, there's like nowhere that's not, so you see something. There's like, yeah, I mean, because I don't think that my hobby is quilting.
Mm-hmm.
It's
My
not.
life is,
I mean,
your life
it's
is
a job, right? So, yeah, I find I think it's probably a lot different than some other hobbies people might have. And then, I think quilters are naturally a little bit collectors, hoarders. You know how that goes, right? I mean, you have multiple machines and tons of fabric and all the things that go along with that. And then I think that when I personally, anyway, decide I'm going to do something else, well, we know what's going to happen there. You start, well, I might want to do that too, or this part of that, and I might want to paint, and I might want to, and now suddenly I have 10 more bins of things that I may or may not use. I don't know. It's obsessive almost.
Well, but it also, as you mentioned earlier, or someone did, in regards, you get inspired from a quilt show, but just having conversations like that, or, being part of a group. The other day in a group, somebody mentioned about these cool paints because they used them, luminaire paints. And what did I do? I went and ordered some of them because I truly liked the effect of how that looked,
Just
so
some, Ava, not all the colors.
I did, but but you know what I'm saying, like Jody said, bins full of stuff. Will I use them in the near future? Probably not. But, at that particular moment, it's like, because I could see and through conversation, just to the possibility of trying something new, And I think we need that. We feed off of that, as long as we do something, whether it's using the paints or doing something else that's not part of our everyday customer quilting or whatever, then that's a good thing.
So Jody, if you had to pick a creative outlet of those bins that you were talking about, what would be your go-to?
None of them.
Because you do have other things that you do that you enjoy, but maybe they're not considered a hobby.
Well, I mean, I like to go riding. So that to me would be the only thing I do that isn't, quilting or crafty, some kind of related. And that's just a total disconnect because you're just you on your machine with your helmet. You can't hear anything. You're just, and it's awesome, but it's not easy. It's not like you can just do that on a whim. You have to plan and, it
Do
becomes.
they have music in the helmets?
You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great though, because I can distinctly remember we were on a trip riding. Great. You're in your own head. That's what it is. There's nothing. You don't need to think about quilting. But my son called and told us that he got a job and he was moving to Denver, right? Great. This is great, right? But I'm riding and now that's all I'm thinking about. And I look up and my husband is gone. And I'm like, I don't know what way he went. We're at a major intersection. We're in the middle of the woods. And I freaked out. I'm like, what? I wasn't even looking because I was thinking about that.
So
I just sat there. Like, hopefully he notices I'm gone.
I'll come back.
After the thoughts of the bear is going to get me, I'm going to be But I lived. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I really don't. I just was telling my husband that actually. I don't have any hobbies because it seems like when I do anything, I think because we're business owners, there always is that angle you have to think like, I bet I could turn this into a bit, I instantly do that with it.
So it's more of a
Not
side hustle than a hobby.
Right.
Mhm.
And I don't know why, but I think when you work for yourself, that's kind of always in your head because that is my job. It would be different if I just, worked somewhere else, then all of the other things would be a hobby, I guess. So I can't ride my quad for a job. So that one stays good.
And you definitely can't be a tour guide now that we know you're getting lost in your thoughts.
Right. Sorry, I was thinking about my quilt. I have to finish when I get out.
Well, but that's also, one of you mentioned, us being business owners, and we all are. So, there is so many different components that make up, whether we are successful or less so in our business, that you have to constantly, monitor. It's whether it's customer acquisition or whether it's, what other avenues are there, to make money. It's so many different facets that we have to worry about. Self-development, what Sharon was talking about, classes, so it's hard, and you're there, and you're getting pulled in directions. You have to keep up with social media. You have to, that takes time. You have to really divide your day, efficiently in order to get to all of that and stay motivated.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that one of the best things about quilting, though?
It is.
That I'm always reminded that there's always another level. And we hear those conversations with students when we've been teaching either in person or online recently, that, they feel like, I hear those comments and they say, I'm not, we're not worthy, or, oh my gosh, I'm in awe. And it's like, what? It's just another level. And it doesn't mean that you can't get to that and challenge yourself. Right. And I think probably one of the best ways for me anyways, to get out of one of those little mojo ruts is to, all right, I'm going to push myself to a new level. And there isn't a limit. There isn't a top where you stop learning about stuff, because it's art is so interpretive, and to everybody, there's going to be new things that you can add into the mix. And it's just like, how do they keep coming up with new kinds of songs, right? Like there's only so many notes in a scale. But so many different combinations of those notes lead to so many beautiful things.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with quilting. You know, we just keep combining them in different ways and reaching.
Well,
new
I think quilting too, well, and probably any craft, you know, because of the internet, you know, you peruse these pages and sites and you see what people are doing. And sometimes that can be very, you know, oh, well, you know, look at, she's doing this and I can't do that or whatever. And I think for me anyway, I feel like the older I get, I don't fall into that trap anymore because I feel like, you know what? I'm just doing what I'm doing. And I don't care what everyone else is doing, you know, but you know, I think always there's that point, especially when you're newer, you know, you see it and you want to do that stuff, but you have to realize that that doesn't just happen. And the
Mhm.
people's pictures that you're seeing, it didn't just happen.
Mhm.
You know, they worked and practiced and, you know, got to that point. So I think, you know, that can be a little bit of a downer sometimes when you start looking and.
Well, because if you're comparing yourself to someone else, that's like instant depression overload. You can only compare yourself to the last thing you did, you know? So,
Right.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
challenge
all at different
yourself.
stages.
Mhm.
You know, you just have to, you know,
Mhm.
but it's, you know, that's a thing, I think, a lot of times.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this was inspiring and it gives you guys some kind of insight into how we deal with some of our ruts that everybody goes through them. Doesn't matter what you do and who you are, everybody experiences them from time to time. And we hope that you'll continue to challenge yourself, go for that nature walk, pick up your set of crochet needles, go for a quad ride, take a class, and you know when your heart's telling you to get right back into it. So thanks for taking the time to be a part of our episode today and listening with us and talking with us. And we'll see you next time on the latest.
Bye.
Okay.